I'm Ann Goldberg.
Jane Sloat.
And this is Wisdom of the Age. And today we have as our guest Dr. Myrna Matilsky. Dr. Matilsky is an MD. She happens to be my doctor. And I was beyond thrilled to find her. She practices functional integrative medicine with a background as a traditional allopathic medicine doctor.
Yes.
So she can bring both into the conversation about health. And one of the things that happened to me, my hormones crashed. And by the time I got to you, I had nothing. I had no estrogen, no progesterone, no testosterone. And who knew that was estrogen dominant? And that sets up that situation. So what I would love for you to talk to us about is hormones. Not only reproductive, but thyroid. And what happens when your hormones are out of whack?
Okay, most people starting could be at as young as age 30, 35, often in the later 30s, certainly in the 40s, and absolutely by the 50s. And this is men also, not just women, but also men, because the men testosterone levels decline. People begin to develop all kinds of symptoms that they don't necessarily attribute to hormones. When women get hot flashes and night sweats, they know to think that that's hormones. But when people can't sleep at night, they can't fall asleep, or they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they can't fall asleep again, and then they fall asleep at 6, but they have to wake up at 6:30 to go to work, and they're tired. They're constantly tired. So there's fatigue. And people get irritable when they're fatigued. Depression, anxiety. When depression and anxiety start in the teenage years, it's often a familial thing. But when depression starts in the 40s or 50s, it's hormonal. And people don't realize this, that it's hormone imbalance.
And that's incredible.
And then
there's so much depression.
There's tremendous amount of depression, and conventional doctors don't have the time to dig into the cause of why they're depressed.
Or the desire, or the
knowledge.
Okay. So patients come in and they complain of depressed symptoms, and conventional doctors will say, oh, well, you're depressed. You meet the qualification for depression. They do a brief questionnaire or scale, and the patient qualifies as depressed, and they'll get a prescription for Zoloft or Prozac or Paxil, but the patient doesn't have a deficiency of Zoloft and needs Zoloft to function better. Chances are, if they're in that situation from age 40 on, they got there because they're lacking progesterone. And if you replace progesterone for them, they feel better. And then they may not need the antidepressant.
Right.
Can you tell us some of the very specific symptoms that go along with the deficiencies, first in women and then in men? So if you're estrogen deficient,
estrogen deficient is often hot flashes and night sweats, but not everybody has that, and many people will get over that on their own. Some won't. A good percentage of women will go through the rest of their lives with hot flashes and night sweats. But also fatigue, tiredness, lack of sleep. Weight gain is more an imbalance between the estrogen and progesterone. So lots of people gain weight. Most people gain weight as they get older. But
so that's hormonal.
That's hormonal. This is all hormonal.
So how because I know people's ears are perking up, because everybody who is overweight is, they're going to latch onto this. So how does that work?
Okay, most of these people who are overweight were not overweight when they were 20 years old. And they probably weren't overweight at 25 or 30. But then they had a few pregnancies. So the pregnancies put the weight on, and many women gain too much weight during pregnancy because they're eating the typical American diet.
And also, pregnancies affect the hormonal cycle.
That's right. So the weight goes up, and they don't quite lose it. Then they have another pregnancy. So they start at a higher weight, and they end up at a higher weight, and they still don't lose it. And after that, well, they're getting in their late 30s or 40s, and the hormones start declining anyway. Many people don't realize that progesterone and testosterone start declining usually about 10 years before menopause, and it could be as early as 15 years before menopause.
That's that whole perimenopause?
Yes. No, this is even earlier. And perimenopause implies right before menopause, right around the time of menopause. But 15 years before menopause, women are 35 years old. They're not thinking of menopause at 35, but they're gaining weight.
Yeah.
But they're gaining weight and having trouble losing weight. And these women were not overweight when they were 20.
Yeah, and let's not forget that we have a very big dose of toxins all the time.
That's true.
Directly impact.
And many of the toxins are estrogen disruptors.
Like
exactly.
what?
Like
plastics, metals,
Plastics.
The meat, conventional meat, which is fed when animals are fed grain, soy and corn grain. It's not natural food for cows to eat.
Right.
So when they're fed grain, they're also fed with antibiotics and hormones. And those antibiotics and hormones, and the hormones is estrogen. Estrogen is a weight-gaining hormone when it's not balanced by progesterone. When it is balanced by progesterone, it does not cause weight gain. This is
So
why the
too much
20-year-old is
estrogen.
not overweight. In the 40s, when the progesterone has dropped down, but there's still estrogen being produced, women tend to gain weight. So when animals are fed estrogen, it puts, it's given, they're fed estrogen, it's in their feed, and their weight goes up. And it's in the interest of the cattle industry to have their animals gain weight quickly so that they can get them to
They
market faster.
ship them
And they're,
up a week before they go to market.
but they're not interested in anyone's health. They're
Right.
interested in their business.
And that's a key point. That's a really key point that we want to make.
And the farmer's son has breasts.
Well, but the key point here is that conventionally raised meats, whether they're poultry or beef or lamb or pork, any of them, are raised in ways that cause us to be sick.
Right.
Is really what happens. The way that they're fed, the way they're medicated, all of that gets into the meat. We start eating it, and the result is
The results are puberty at a younger age. So used to be girls got their period at age 12, maybe 11. Then 10 became common, 9 is common, and 8 is common these days. Men have lower sperm counts than they used to have.
and that's a
Infertility
result.
has increased.
And these are all a direct result of the
Right, men are not supposed to be exposed to the amount of estrogen to which they're exposed in the food and in plastics. Plastic bottles.
Right.
Plastics didn't used to exist.
right.
If bottles were glass.
That's right.
Until, what, 1950s? I don't know what
70s,
year.
around the 70s they
Okay,
changed.
so the plastics leach xenoestrogens, estrogens, which are related to estrogens, and they act as estrogens. They're hormone disruptors in the body.
And that's that whole conversation of why you should never microwave in plastic, you should never heat anything in plastic, you should never drink water from plastic bottles,
Well, if you
leave
drink
plastic
water,
bottles in your car.
if you drink water from plastic bottles, the bottle is meant to be a one-time use bottle.
One time,
Throw it out
absolutely.
afterwards or recycle it. Better to recycle the bottle. Right. Don't leave
Don't
plastic
refill
bottles
it.
in the car and drink from them because the heat of the car causes more plastic to leach into the water, and then you're drinking xenoestrogens in the
Right.
water.
And so you think you're doing such a good thing, and then the next thing you know, you're not sleeping well, you're grumpy, these little symptoms just sort of pile on until one day you can't get out of bed. And then you think there's something really wrong. And in the next segment that we talk about hormones, we're going to talk to a friend of mine who had exactly that happen, where her hormones were so horrifically out of balance that she actually was institutionalized. She was losing her mind. And it was hormones. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I don't know that I've come across people as serious as that they've had to be hospitalized or institutionalized because of hormone imbalance, but people don't function well. They don't feel well. They're not happy.
That's me. Not happy. Hair loss,
Right.
skin sagging.
Yes, skin changes. Lots of people, not only women, but men also these days spend a lot of money on plastic surgery, on fillers in the skin, on skin treatments, when they could be getting similar benefit by replacing their hormones.
Whoa, let's talk about that. Replacing hormones as a
Improves
way
the skin.
improving skin. Explain
It
how
keeps
that
the
works.
skin tighter, it gives it better texture, keeps it firmer. Now, another thing, many people complain they go to the gym and they exercise and they eat better and they eat healthier than they used to and they work harder at being fit, but they don't gain any muscle and they don't see results week after week after week in the gym. There's no benefit. Well, in order to build muscle, you have to have testosterone, women and men. Now, a 20-year-old guy can go to the gym and in a few weeks you see the muscles on him. A 50-year-old can't do that. They can even do it, but he won't see the
not gonna
muscles.
see the
And the
results.
same for women. If they want firmer muscles, better body tone, going to the gym alone without the hormones won't do it. Now, I'm not talking about giving hormones in order to make bodybuilders out of people.
No.
I haven't had a few people become bodybuilders, but that was not my intention, and I'm not giving hormones to that level. We're giving hormones to replace to a physiologic level, to put people back to the 40-year-old level, the 35 to 40-year-old level.
Is that how I'm going to feel, like a 35 or 40?
I hope so.
I hope so too. Well, I know it certainly worked the first time I was.
I often ask people, I'm in an older group of people, how many of you feel as though you did when you were 25? And nobody raises their hand, but how many feel as good as you did when you were 40?
I feel better.
I feel like I did when I was 40.
Yeah, I remember 40 because I had a child at 41, so I really remember 40.
But I had my last at 40. And I had energy to take care of kids then.
That's right. I had plenty of energy. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that because after my second child, that's when my thyroid took a dump. So, I used to be like this until I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and that's a whole other conversation. That was 24 years ago, and for 23 of those years, I was a wreck. I just kept getting worse and worse, more depressed, more panic attacks, brain fog. I couldn't think my way out of a paper bag.
Also, many conventional doctors will replace the thyroid only to get the numbers just over the bottom end of normal. In other words, to put them into the very low range of normal. And what's normal? That's what the lab prints on their page as normal. But normal and optimal are not the same. If your thyroid level is at the very lowest end of normal, but in that normal range, and you don't feel normal because you're still tired, weak, no energy, gaining weight, you don't feel normal, then you're not normal.
Right.
And then something further can be done, and it's usually raise the thyroid a little higher. Not to make anybody hyperthyroid. You don't want that. That ages the body faster, among other things. Not a good way to be. But just to get into the upper end, the middle or the upper end of the normal range.
By adjusting and getting my thyroid medications balanced and going off Synthroid and onto NP thyroid made such a huge difference in everything. I can't even, from just my ability to deal with life got better and easier.
And I see this and hear this all the time. People are told by a conventional doctor they're normal.
You're fine.
But they don't
Your
feel
tests
normal.
are good.
That's why
so
they come
why
to
do I
me.
feel so bad?
That's one of the big differences between the conventional, so-called, and the functional, is that the conventional doesn't listen to you. They
They listen, but they don't have time. They're pressed by insurance these
They're pressed
days.
by insurance.
Yeah, but they just look at the blood work, and
They're
they
not
don't.
bad doctors. This is how doctors are trained. This is what I learned in medical school also.
I
What I'm
know.
doing now is not what I learned in school.
Okay, we don't.
Did you get a lot of, when you moved into a functional practice, how did your peers receive that?
Oh, at first, I didn't talk to my peers about it. I kept it hidden. I was very cautious about to whom I spoke. My husband has a big mouth, and he told everybody.
He's proud of you.
You have to come out.
You had to come out of that closet.
Now colleagues know what I do, and some think I'm crazy, and some think I'm wrong. And in the end, I'm here for the patient. Patients feel better, and I don't see anything wrong with feeling better. My main reason, though, I should say, my main number one reason for prescribing hormones is for disease prevention, to keep the body in a better condition, in a younger condition. People who have their full complement of hormones, such as the 20 to 35 or 40-year-olds, are basically not a sick population of people. And who get sick? People older who have lost their hormones. So when the hormone levels decline, that's when the body begins to get sick, to fall apart, and people begin to get chronic diseases. So chronic heart disease, arthritis, osteoporosis, stroke, cancer, dementia, these all come from breakdown of the body from lack of hormones. And maintaining hormones at good levels, at physiologic levels for a 35 to 40-year-old can't necessarily keep people living forever, but it can keep people living healthier. My secondary reason is so that people feel better, and I don't see anything wrong with feeling better as you get old. Everybody's aging.
That's right. But that doesn't mean you have to be old and decrepit. We know that from the blue zones. We know that from the people who live the longest in the world, that they live long with vitality. So many of us women think it's only the estrogen they have to worry about.
Estrogen has to be balanced with progesterone. And classically, gynecologists have told women who have had a hysterectomy, if you've had a hysterectomy, you don't need progesterone because progesterone is someone's phone here, it's not ours.
Oh, Jean, it's you.
All right, so
3 whips of the wet noodle.
women who have a uterus were told that they need progesterone to protect the uterus from cancer that could be caused by estrogen. Well, it's true, estrogen can cause cancer, but progesterone and testosterone protect the body against cancer and can lower the risk. So, but you don't need progesterone only to protect the uterus, you need it to protect the breasts, to protect the brain, the bones, the heart, the joints. Every place where estrogen goes, there are receptors in the body for estrogen. There are also receptors in the body for progesterone. So anyone who's told, oh, you've had a hysterectomy, you don't need progesterone, well, that doctor who's advising that doesn't realize the person also has a heart and brain and other organs
that are dependent on this balance.
On the balance.
Right, and where does testosterone fit into that triumvirate?
Testosterone contributes in with the others. Look, there are over 100 hormones in the body, and we're not balancing all 100 plus hormones. We're talking about these major ones. Most hormones decline with age. A few of them go up with age. Cortisol tends to rise with age. Insulin tends to rise with age. But the hormones that we're talking about tend to decline with age, thyroid included.
Right.
So many people over age 50, maybe many people younger than age 50 are low in thyroid, and that could be replaced also to help people feel better.
That was certainly my case. So
That wasn't a question, was it?
no, but it's all good information because this is all stuff that people, women and men, need to hear. So when I come to Dr. Matilsky, I get my hormones replaced, and I'm going to stand up. I get a little incision, right? It was.
You're not pulling your pants down.
No, I'm not pulling my pants down.
Okay, but
it's
the
right
incision
here.
is 3 millimeters, and it would be inside the pants.
Yeah.
A 3 millimeter incision.
But it's right here. It's like not any place.
But it's not the same exact spot every time. We
Right.
rotate around.
Right. Could be on the other side, a little higher, a little
and we
lower.
insert hormone pellets,
Right.
estrogen and testosterone pellets. And testosterone you want for muscle building, for body tone, for muscle tone,
Right.
for weight maintenance in order to avoid gaining weight.
Big
and it helps
difference
with
in my
bone
body.
growth.
Big
Tremendous with
difference
bone growth,
in my
prevent
muscles.
osteoporosis.
Yep. Right, very related to estrogen and testosterone.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So many of my friends with whom I've shared that I'm getting this hormone replacement, their first reaction is, oh, I don't know, I'm worried. Doesn't that cause cancer?
Okay, estrogen alone can cause cancer. Estrogen balanced by progesterone does not cause cancer. It's protective against cancer. So women who have balanced hormones have a lower risk of cancer.
So let's talk about what these bioidentical hormone pellets versus the creams and pills that probably most women are familiar
Let's mention
with.
pills first. Many women are familiar with Premarin and Prempro. They were popular until 2002. In 2002, the Women's Health Initiative study was reported. It was actually stopped prematurely in that year because they had shown by that time that Premarin and Prempro had increased the rate of breast cancer, heart attack, stroke, dementia, and blood clots. And they said this is dangerous. Actually, they didn't say
what you just
they
said
didn't
before
say-
that
They
happens.
didn't say hormones are dangerous. Wait. They said hormones are dangerous. They didn't say Premarin is dangerous. They said hormones are dangerous. So women got worried. They thought they had to stop. Many did, and others felt so bad when they stopped. They said they don't care. They'll take the risk. They went back on it. And this took doctors by surprise. We didn't know what to do at the time. More and more reports are still coming out of that study. They're not finished analyzing that data.
Right.
What they should have said was that study was flawed. They tested the wrong hormone. They should have used a hormone that's identical to the hormone naturally in human women. And we call that bioidentical hormone.
Right, so
Where does that come from?
Premarin, was
Where
it
does it
that
come from?
horse's urine?
Premarin was horse's urine. It's purified. It's estrogen that's in horse's urine, but it's horse estrogen. It's not the same as human
Which
estrogen.
means it's not bioidentical.
It's not bioidentical for a human woman. It's not even bioidentical for a horse because the pharmacy industry had to alter it so that they could patent it. You're not allowed to patent a naturally occurring
Right, so
substance.
this is what people point to when they say
They point to
it
that
causes
study when they
cancer.
say it causes cancer. What they should say is Premarin causes cancer. Yes, Premarin probably does cause cancer. I don't prescribe Premarin. So Premarin is not bioidentical. Wait, there are 3 things that came out of that study. They used the wrong hormone. They gave the wrong dose. They gave everybody the same dose. They weren't checking levels. They weren't checking
Even
blood level,
weight?
urine level, anything.
Nothing.
And they-
Everybody, like a 120-pound
Everyone
woman
got-
and a 200-pound
They had-
woman would get the
They
same.
had two strengths of Premarin back then. Standard strength, 0.625 milligram, and the high strength was 1.25 milligram. Well, everybody got the standard strength, and if they still had hot flashes and night sweats on that, they were raised up to the higher strength. If they did all right, after a while, they were brought back to the standard strength. Afterwards, the company that makes Premarin didn't want to pull it off the market. It would have been a big money loser. They came out with lower strength. So if women could be helped with lower strengths, but they were, but as far as symptoms, but Premarin didn't, at the lower strengths, did nothing to prevent disease long term. And the other is it was given by the wrong route. It was given by mouth. When you give estrogen or testosterone by mouth, it's metabolized through the liver, it goes through the intestinal tract, then through the liver, and the liver changes the estradiol, which is the active form of estrogen, to estrone. And estrone is not the kind of estrogen you want to have. The body makes it after menopause, the adrenal gland makes it. Some women have it, they have some, but you don't want a lot of it. You don't want to be raising the estrone level. And estrone is linked with cancer as well as estrogen without the support of progesterone.
And estradiol,
Estradiol is the healthy form of estrogen.
and that's what you want to
That's
increase.
what we want to replace, that's what we want to increase, and that's what women have mainly, that's the main active hormone before menopause.
So I can attest to this process where I lay on a table and there's an anesthesia, anesthetize that, and then there's just a lot of pressure, and you feel stuff, but you don't feel pain per se. It's just but it's not. It's just there. It's not a big deal. And then I walk out with a little Band-Aid, and it's just not a big deal. 2 days later, it's healing. It's fine. I had mine done just 3 days ago. So I can honestly say it's no big deal. But these little pellets, they're like the size of a grain of rice, right?
Yes, an estrogen pellet is the size of a grain of rice. A testosterone pellet is a little bit bigger. Men's testosterone is bigger.
Okay.
So this will be bigger.
But even bigger.
And they slide in one line.
Yeah. It's like not a big deal. And then they get dissolved over time.
The body absorbs them. The body forms capillaries around them so that they get absorbed according to the circulation. When your heart is beating faster, such as when you're active or exercising, the circulation goes faster, so more goes by the pellets and more hormone is absorbed. When you're sleeping, the heart rate slows down, and because it slows down, there's less circulation and less hormone is absorbed into the body. So the levels change a little bit between day and night, depending on the circulation.
All I can say is I felt fabulous with the hormones, and I had them in, what did we say, in March? And then I had them again recently.
In women, they last 3 to 5 months, and then
Right.
we replace them
Right.
3 to 5 months when the effect is wearing off.
Right, and I knew the effect was wearing off. I didn't get night sweats or night sweats in particular, but I felt my mood. I felt my mood going south. I got more irritable. It was the subtlest things, but I knew that was my hormones. I got a little more
Usually,
weepy.
after the first time we put hormones in, we wait for the symptoms to come back. But after the second time, we set the timing from when the symptoms came the first time, so that you don't have to have symptoms coming back each time.
Right.
So for women who just don't come on time or come on schedule, they'll often say their spouse or their children or their coworkers ask them, "Isn't it time for your pellets?"
Don't you have to go get that done again? We're noticing a difference. I mean, Jane came over one day, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." I was crying, and I knew it was my hormones. It was just the craziest thing, and I simply don't feel that way now.
Right, and once you get used to them,
crazy.
you feel great, and you don't
Oh,
want
yeah.
to live without them.
No, I really
Why should you?
don't.
People ask, well, how long should they continue? Well, I ask, well, how long do you want to be well and healthy? How long do you want to prevent disease? And how long do you want to feel good?
Are there any downsides?
Was there any downside to being 20 years old and having hormones? Maybe 20. 25?
Some women out there might be going, "I don't want to be 20."
No, I don't want the levels to be as high as a 20-year-old. But no.
There's no downside. There's no health
There
downside.
can be if it's overdosed. If it's overdosed, I don't overdose it. I use a computer program. I work with a group that uses a computer program to calculate the dose based on symptoms, the blood test result, age, and weight. All of that calculates in, and I come up with a dose. Now, sometimes I override it. Being experienced with this, I will override the computer at times and use common sense and judgment, and I go by how the person in front of me feels. Some people are so gung-ho. They want as much as they can have, and they can't wait. They want it right away. Well, I might go a little bit higher. And others are very cautious. They're worried. They're afraid. They say, once you put it in, what happens if they don't like it? Well, everybody likes it.
There's
But they're
no not
worried.
liking
But some
it.
people are worried because the first time they don't know what to expect. So they don't know. And if you want to be cautious, we can go on a lower side. I can give less because I can always add more later. And can always put more in. But once the pellets are in, they can't be taken out. You have to wait until it wears off. So the effect will eventually wear off in women 3 to 5 months, in men 5 to 6 months. And if someone really doesn't like it, it'll wear off, it'll go away.
I can't imagine anybody not liking it.
Everybody likes it.
I mean, it would be, it's like, what, you don't like feeling better?
You don't
like
feeling
being
night?
happier? You don't like laying your head on the pillow and closing your eyes and drifting
you're
off?
asleep.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
not waking up until it's morning.
right, unless I drank an awful lot and I have to pee and then I go right back to sleep. It's like, it is remarkable how it balanced out.
You know, it helps relationships also.
Yeah.
I've had many couples who get hormone replacement together, and they'll say it saved their marriage, it helped their marriage, it keeps them having sex within the marriage instead of one of them going looking for it elsewhere.
Right, right. Because as women, we know when estrogen is low, that sex drive just goes.
It plummets, and that usually happens after a few children. The weight goes up, the hormone levels are declining in that 10 to 15 year period before menopause, and in the later 30s and 40s, women don't have the sex interest, and many men still do.
And oh my God, the implications, societal implications on marriage and cheating and all of that.
The divorce rate goes up when the hormone levels decline.
Are there studies that show that?
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my God, that's incredible. That's really fascinating. Okay, so Dr. Myrna Matilsky is located in Boca Raton at 2900 North Military Trail, just north of Banyan, right? Banyan
Yes.
Street, place, whatever it is.
North of Banyan, actually north of Glades, south of Spanish River.
Yes. And the phone number here is 561
994-2007.
994-2007. I can tell you that my life changed for the better, and this understanding of hormones is so critical to our emotional and physical health as humans. It's just all of us, and it was just so important to have this conversation. So if you are thinking about getting your hormones replaced, I would definitely recommend Dr. Matilsky. She's really saved my life with this.
Let them know. I give a free seminar with further detail once or twice a month, about every 3 weeks.
So again, that number is 561-994-2007 if you want to call and find out when the seminars are. And I was at one of these seminars, and the information you get is astounding. It's so deep and so detailed and informational that you walk away just scratching your head going, why didn't I know this 30 years ago? So thank you, Dr. Matilsky, for being here. And we're going to wrap up another episode of Wisdom of the Age. This is Ann Goldberg and
Jane Sloat.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Ann.
And we'll see you next week. Remember, Wisdom
Bye.
of the Age.